Josh Green here with Mac Elkin, one of the manager of some of the best players in the world. Mac, it's great to have you here. Thank you very much for joining me. Can you first just tell us what your role includes, what's involved in the life of a darts manager?
Yeah, first of all, hello Josh, hope you're well. Right, what's involved in the life of a dart manager? Where do I start? Okay, people think it's quite easy, and you can just like book flights, book hotels, and that's all it. But I mean, with my players being a lot of top players, I have to get sponsorship, which at the moment during this pandemic is really hard. But if you look at all my players, virtually every single player has got a full shirt. So that part of the job is being done, which is good. When other players see that, that attracts other players to the management stable, top players especially. We've just sorted Wadey out. Wadey's now got a full shirt, which is fantastic. And like I say, it's hard during the pandemic, but we've done it. But basically, it's about how can I, not feeding egos, because that's probably the wrong word, but it's about looking after players in certain ways. Certain players you have to treat differently sometimes. Some players you have to put your arm around and tell them things are going to be okay. Some players you can tell them the truth. You tell them straight. I use Wadey again as an option. I could tell James Wade, James, that was terrible. You didn't do this, didn't do that. He'll take it on board, and I can tell him that straight after the game. He appreciates honesty. Whereas one or two other players, if I say it straight after the game, will think it's a criticism and will fight back or bite back. So it's difficult. It's about man management. And the way I've learned that over the years is by going to every single tournament and being with the lads and watch how they react during games, after wins, after losses. And you learn about each player. And it's about managing each player. Although with a team, we're only a team by the banner name. Every player, as you know, in darts, it's an individual game. And everyone's out to earn as much money as they can for themselves and the family. So, yeah, we call it a team, but it's not really a team. It's just the banner name that's the team. So every player has to be managed individually. And, yeah, I've got quite a few players. I think I've got 7 players on the tour. So you could say it's quite hard, but to be honest, the players have got are fantastic. They're brilliant, and they know what they expect things from me. I expect things from them, and we've got a fine balance at the moment. It's really good, to be fair.
Yeah, and your team, well, your team as we call it, has grown considerably in 2020. Obviously, James Wade coming in, Justin Pipe, as well as some of the names. Jose is a fairly new addition as well. You've got a strong armory there, some very top players. You have to say, don't you?
Well, you know what, Josh. The funny thing is that I speak to when I'm signing a player, I don't just go with my heart. I speak to all the other players as well in the team, and I say, listen, I'm thinking of bringing James Wade in. What do you think? Every player came back and said, all positive remark. It was all positive. And it showed. Wadey comes in, and then all of a sudden we have 3 major winners. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. James is a loner. James does his own thing. But all the lads look up to James, including Glenn. They all look up to James because James is the 3rd most decorated player in the PDC. He's got a lot going for him. Yeah, he says things as they are, and I think all the players appreciate that. I think the lads have got to know James now, to say he's not the kind of person people think he is just because he's honest. Do you know? And honesty portrays a different. What's the word I'm looking for? It portrays James sometimes as being a bit rude, but it's not. That's not actually the fact. The fact is, James is telling you the truth. James is telling you what you want to hear, but you're scared of hearing it. If you understand what I'm saying.
I do.
So for Wadey to come in and everyone to win, is it a coincidence? I don't know. Like I say, it's just great. And we've got, like I said in the earlier sentence, we've got a fine balance at the moment. We've got no real divas in the team. Everybody, I could leave everyone to do their own thing and they'll be fine. They're really, well, I do leave them to do their own thing. I'm just there. If there's a problem, they can come to me and I'll try and solve that problem there and then if I can. And lets them play darts, and it takes all the pressure off the mind and off the shoulders. And basically, again, that's what my job's about, just letting the lads play darts and me doing everything else in the background.
Yeah. I think to many people, it was a bit of a surprise to see players like Dimitri Vandenberg, Jose De Souza winning major events. Was it a surprise to you?
Do you know what? I say to everybody, if any of my players won a major, it wouldn't surprise me, because every player I've got has got the capability and the ability to win games. Dimitri always had that. We know what Dimitri can do on stage. It was just that level of consistency over that week or whatever it was, how long the tournament's for. And as soon as you can reach that level of consistency, then you're going to win majors. Now, we know Dimmy was 2-time back-to-back World Youth Champion. We know he's got a winning mentality. He won 13 development tours and challenge tour. Jose De Souza, he was a soft tip player up until 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, if you count. But he was a soft tip player. And he played in 60 finals in soft tip and won 54. He's got a winning mentality. Glenn Dorrans, 3-time BDO world champion, won everything you can think of in the BDO. Winning mentality. Every player has got a winning mentality. Ted Evitts now is the most, with Dimitri, but he's the most decorated youth player. So Ted has got that in his armoury, and I expect Ted to step up this year. I really do. And Dimitri's only 26. And he's a major champion. And that's a very young age in darts, because we know players go 50, 55. Peter Wright won his first world final at 49. Do you know what I mean? And Gary Anderson's still reaching finals now at 50. All the top players are quite old, but they're still doing it. So what a massive future these young lads have got. And especially if darts goes the way it's going now, what Barry Hearn has done to darts and the whole of the PDC with Matt Porter and the backup staff, it's amazing. And the money they're bringing in is turning people's lives around. Jose, I hope you don't mind me saying, wasn't exactly rich. Soft tip darts didn't pay a lot of money. I hope I'm not talking out of school here, but Jose wasn't exactly rich. He's come over to the PDC and he's come over to change his life. He signed for me, started winning tournaments, and then all of a sudden he's won the Grand Slam tournament, and he's bought himself a house in Spain. He'd already started to buy a house, but now he can finish the house. His whole life has changed. His sponsorship has gone tenfold, honestly. And all this has changed his whole life. In the space of 2 years playing in the PDC, his whole life has changed. And that's, if people work hard and take it serious and don't take it as a joke or a party or a weekend away with the lads, and they actually realise it is a job that can change your life, then it shows. You've only got to look at Jose and it'll show what it can do to people. It's amazing, honestly, what the PDC have achieved in such a short time. When I first came into this game, you paid your way into the PDC. I could play on the PDC circuit. As long as I paid my 200 quid entry, I could play. And you'd get Tom, Dick and Harry turning up, and it wasn't really good. Until you got down to the last 16, the last 32, there were so many mismatches. But now, you're not guaranteed to win a game. There's 128 world-class players on that circuit. And Q School is coming up very soon, as we know. And there's a lot of people going to chase a dream. I see a lot of people saying it's going to cost this, it's going to cost that. And yeah, it's a lot of money. I understand that. It's a lot of money as an initial outlay. You've got no backing. But the prize at the end of it is just incredible. It's life-changing. And like I say, once again, in 2 years, look at Jose De Souza. In 7 years, look at Gerwin Price. In just a couple of years, look at Rob Cross. All players that have changed their whole life through darts. And it's a hobby for a lot of people. And to turn your hobby into a job is a dream. Yeah. And it is. If I say to people, if you can, break the bank, go to Q School. If you think you're good enough, back yourself. And then once you're at Q School, once you get a tour card, there's so many managers. We call them the vultures. We have a laugh. We're all there. All the managers are there walking around. and we're all looking for new talent. So if you play well at Q School, you'll get snapped up.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you say about Q School there. I mean, yes, it's £450 now, I believe, but the rewards, if you get through Q School, are absolutely huge. The rewards on the Pro Tour, the rewards if you get to a major. And the story you talk about with Jose De Souza there, he's gone from, as you say, very little soft hit player, and now he's a Premier League player along with Glenn Durrant and Dimitri Vandenberg. The rise of Jose De Souza is a really incredible story.
It is. It's incredible, and it's great. It's great to be part of it. And you know, he's so humble that I phoned him up on the 3rd of January. Yeah, he didn't watch the final. He was in bed. He's in Spain, so he's an hour in front. Phoned him up. He's in bed with his wife, and this is the conversation. Hello, brother. I said, hello, Jose. I said, how are you? I'm sleeping, brother. There's my wife. Shows me a picture of his wife in bed. We laugh, we joke, and I go, by the way, do you know why I'm phoning? And he said, no, brother, everything okay? You're in the Premier League, Jose. You're in the Premier League. And he just starts crying. He's like, no, you're joking. I said, no, you're in the Premier League. Although I kept telling him, as a major winner, he has a chance. Until he got that final say, he didn't. And then the emotion came out, and he just burst into tears. And that moment, honestly, I'm getting emotional now. That moment, in 10 years of darts and 10 years of boxing previously, those moments make it. Great winning tournaments. Of course, it's great winning tournaments. It's the best feeling in the world. But to tell somebody about something else that's going to change their life for the better, and to see the emotion come out, you can't buy that. Nothing can buy that. And those small moments make everything huge. Honestly, it's brilliant.
Yeah. What was it like telling Dimitri he made the Premier League? Because I'm sure after a World Match Play win, he must have been thinking, I've got it here. I've got the Premier League. So was he half expecting to be there a little bit more?
Do you know, that's another one. Dimitri wasn't, again, although all the talk was about Dimitri, at the Worlds, all the talk was about Dimitri. Sky wanted to interview different players about Dimitri. So myself, I had a massive inkling he was going to be in. I mean, he got to the semi-final of the Grand Slam, obviously won the match play, had a decent run in the Worlds, had a superb game against Chizzy. What a game that was, by the way, losing with 106 average. But it happens. That's how much the game's gone on, by the way, now. But until he didn't know, and then when I phoned him and told him, he was over the moon. He was absolutely made up, because normally I get a phone call around 6 o'clock off Matt Porter to say so-and-so's in the Premier League, so-and-so's in the Premier League. I didn't get that phone call this year. So it was a little bit of an anxious wait. Although deep down I knew who was in. The rumor monger started, and so-and-so came round, so-and-so came round. But I didn't get that phone call, so I wasn't sure. So it was all new to me as well. But when I told Dimmy he was over the moon, obviously Glenn knew he was in because he's Premier League champion. But even though it was the first time we actually found out, is when he saw the lineup on TV, and he could relax a little bit, because his form went down after he got a bit of COVID, and he's been struggling lately with not so much form, which we call it form, but it's mentally, as we know, and he's still recovering. It takes quite a long time to recover from injuries, from illness. As we all know, it doesn't matter what sport you're in. So, and this sport in darts is a lot on the mental mind, the mental side. So the mentality of players has to be 100% when they go up, because if it's not, certain things, and you can see by people's demeanour, how they act on stage, that things aren't going right, things aren't right in the mind. But, you know, once they all got that, okay, you're in the Premier League, and the weight was lifted off the shoulders, it was the group message started, all the lads congratulating them, and the message that, I can't wait to get on tour with so-and-so, so-and-so. I imagine 5 days with Jose, we'll all go mad. 5 days with Dimmy's cheesiness and his girlfriend, and honestly, and Glenn's boring jokes. And all of a sudden, all the euphoria of getting in the Premier League turned into taking the mickey out of one another. Oh, what are we going to do for this? What are we going to do for that? And the only consolation is having 3 in the Premier League. I'm guaranteed one in the last section after Judgment Day. So I'm going to be there for 16 weeks again this year. But last year I expected 16 weeks, and it was a funny year, as you know, because we played it at Milton Keynes at the end. But the Premier League is just the most amazing show that you could ever go to and be part of. It's just brilliant. And the build up and everything. And then it just goes so quick. And all of a sudden, you're moving on to the next one. But it is brilliant. The same as the World Series. You know, people who say, I heard, I won't mention a name. I heard a player say yesterday on an interview, I'm not interested in Premier League. I'll leave it to the others and blah, blah. I don't believe that for 1 minute. One, the rewards are superb. Yeah, it's hard work. You're on the road. You're on the road 5 days a week when you're playing Europeans or Pro Tours, sometimes 6 days a week. You miss your family, but the rewards are amazing. Glenn obviously topped the league and then won the Premier League, won £275,000. How can people say, oh, I don't want to play in the Premier League when there's rewards like that on offer? Again, PDC, life-changing. Q-Score, think about it, people. Think about it.
I have to ask you one more question on the Premier League. What's it going to be like when Jose's facing Dimmy or does us facing Jose? What's it like for you backstage when you've got 2 players that you're managing playing against each other, especially in such a big game, such a Premier League game?
Do you know what, Josh? I said it earlier. All my boys I can leave alone. They all doing their own thing. They're all good. So when my like Dimitri played James in the Grand Slam, then James played Jose in the Grand Slam, I just left them alone. I didn't go down. I didn't get involved. I can't sit in case somebody thinks I'm taking sides. So I do my own thing. I'm around. I'm there. I'm in the background. So if there's a problem for anyone, then they can still come to me and say, I've got a problem. I need this. I need that. Can you fetch me this? Can you fetch me that? I'll do it. No problem. But I won't sit with a certain player and take sides. I won't do it. And touching on the Premier League, that 4th place, I am a little bit disappointed that James Wade didn't get it because he's been to 2 major finals this year. He's playing superb. He's won a floor tournament. But for some reason, he got overlooked. He's got to go to the Masters now and perform at the Masters. I know he done an interview once. There's another player done an interview once and said he's not really interested in it. But believe me, he is interested in it. He wants the Premier League. And like I say, all other players that say it, I don't think actually mean it. I think it's just a cover up because they're not picked. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know whether that makes sense, but I'm pretty sure if there was picked, they'll be over the moon. Gary Anderson said, I don't want Premier League for the last 10 years. Every week we sit there in week 1, he walks in, here we go again. And we're like, oh, Gaz, not again. But you know what? He deserves to be there. And every year he turns up, he performs. Semi-final again this year. Regardless of what you say about Gary, the man is an absolute legend in the PDC. And I hope he don't pack up. I hope, he said this year he's going to play all the floor in the Europeans. He hasn't played the Europeans for the last couple of years. If he does, there's going to be a major shake-up because he'll be winning a lot of tournaments. At the moment, or not until not long ago, he wasn't even seeded on the floor. So imagine that when you're sitting there, you got your 1 to 32 seeds and you can draw Gary Anderson. You're like, wow, that's how good the PDC is. I can't speak highly enough of it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Aaron. That 10th spot really is open. There's a few names you can throw in, but James Wade is definitely a player that has got to be in the reckoning. It gives an extra importance to the Masters, doesn't it? Yes, it's an unranked tournament, but now there's probably 3 or 4 players that will be thinking if we go and have a good semi-final, final run, that final spot in the Premier League is there for the taking.
You're spot on, Josh. You're absolutely spot on. I mean, you've got players, Darryl Gurney, you got Michael Smith, you know what I mean, Wadey. Players like who all want to get in that. Oh, Chizzy, how can I forget Chizzy? Wow. He's a dream, he's for the Premier League. The 180 scoring. The crowd love 180s and Chizzy hits them for fun. I think he throws his darts backwards at 180, closes his eyes, it's 180s. So you've got 4 players there that all want to be in it. 3 that was in it last year, or sorry, 2 that was in it last year. You got Chizzy and Wadey. Then you got outsiders, or can you call them outsiders? You got people like Rataski. You got Simon Whitlock. Do you know what I mean? You got so many good players there that can take that 10th place. Or I mean, we could probably say there's another 10 players. You could have another Premier League, because I'm pretty sure out the top 24 players, you can get 20 top players. Ian Weiss has never got a mention for the Premier League. Yeah. I know people say you can't do it on telly. That's a myth. And I think Ian goes out thinking that sometimes. And unfortunately, social media can be a horrible thing, and it affects a lot of people mentally. And I think social media, for me, at the moment, affected Glenn. I think it affects Ian White. I certainly see some of the things it said about Michael Smith. It's disgusting, because his family have seen that. And I hate it. I really hate it. But the players choose to be on social media. So that's something I can't do nothing about. The PDC can't do nothing about. The players have to make their own mind up. They have to come off social media. If they don't want to see negativity, unfortunately, in this world, there's people that like to knock you down. It don't matter how well you're doing. And you can have 999 positive messages saying how good you are, but you'll focus on that one horrible message, and that one horrible message will plant a seed inside your head and play with your mentality, your mind, all the time. And the only way you can get rid of that is come off social media completely. Do not even sneak on and have a look. I know Wadey don't really do social media. He's got his own little bubble kind of thing on Facebook with about 46 people. Do you know what I mean? No one even knows he's on there. And he's got a James Wade Facebook page or whatever, which Sammy does, so it's still part of James. And certain other players have that as well. Do you know? But each player needs to come off social media completely and focus on the game. I wouldn't stop Glenn going on social media. He was on his phone about an hour before the game, and we banned him off social media completely. And he stood it for a week, and then he was back on. He can't, you know, and if he watches this, he's going to go mad at me. But it's one of them things you just can't stop people doing. And it's part of our lives now with telephones. Social media is part of our lives. I mean, even me, I'd be lost without it yourself. But we have it for our businesses. That's our excuse.
Yeah. Social media plays a big part in our lives and even in the players' lives now. But we do quickly have to just touch on Q School, in particular Jim Williams. The last year he went in as a BDO World finalist, and people probably had a target on him. There was a target on his back, that's for sure. Do you think maybe he's got on into Q School this year with a little bit less of a target, and that'll be a big help to him?
Well, first of all, I think there's still going to be a lot of pressure on Jim, because he's expected to get a tour card. Being part of us as well, and the players he's around, he got a taste in the winter series. He got a taste of what it's like. Done well, actually. I think he earned 1,500 quid. You know what I mean? Won 3 or 4 games. So might have earned 2.5 grand, actually, I think. So there you go. Just on like one weekend, it's huge money for him. But there's still going to be a lot of pressure on Jim, because he's expected to get a tour card. But like you say, last year he went in as a world finalist. This year, there's not been a lot of darts. I just hope he's picked his darts up and started practicing now, ready for Q School, because it's tough. Luckily, he's got not a bye, because he's earned the right, but he's gone straight through to phase 2, so he hasn't got to go through phase 1. So half the job's done for him. And I'll touch on that as well. We've got Kevin Dutz in the European Q School, who goes straight through to phase 2, because they've both done so well on the Challenge Tour. And then we've got young Owen Roloffs, who just missed out on phase 2 by a space or 2. That has to go into phase 1 in European Q School. But they're both really young players. Owen's just turned 17, as we know. He's got a future. We'll stick with him. He's brilliant. Kevin's already won a Challenge Tour and a Youth Development Tour already. You know, we've only had him 9 months. Brilliant. And Jim won a Challenge Tour, so he knows what it's like to win against the type of player he's going to be playing against. But Q School is tough. Glenn went there and he struggled. Yes, he struggled with the pressure more than the games, and the fact that everybody wanted him to win when he was winning. But oh my life, as soon as he lost, the whole place erupted, and there was laughing, and there was joking about him, and there was clapping, and it was disgusting. And then when he got his tour card, the same people all of a sudden had turned again, and there was all over him. You deserve it. You're the best player. So we know how fickle people are. Do you know what I mean? And supporters and players and what have you. But like I say, Glenn, he had all the pressures on his shoulders. He sneaked through on the point system. 2 years later, 275 grand in the Premier League. Forget all the semi-finals and all the money, other money he earns. Do you know what I mean? So in fact, Glenn's earned more in non-ranking tournaments than he has in the ranking. It'd be world number, I think, 3 if his non-ranking tournaments had gone on. World number 3.
That's incredible.
And this is the guy that ain't never going to make it in the PDC. So put his non-ranking winnings onto his tournament winnings, and his world number 3. He's behind Michael and Gerwin.
That's genuinely
incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned some other names there, the 2 young Dutchmen. Do you think, in some ways, with Owen going into the first phase of Q School, do you think it may help him slightly in the fact that if he was to make phase 2, he's already had the match practice, he knows what to expect and everything like that, whereas Kevin and Jim as well, maybe going in a little bit cold against some of the players that have had that match practice?
Do you know what, Josh? I don't actually believe that. I believe once you go, each day is a fresh day. You know, match practice, yeah, it's a lot. As long as you've got your arm loose and you've been practicing off the board, if you go into a new day, it's a fresh day, anything can happen. People don't perform the same way they do. I mean, we'll take Chizzy as an example. He was superb against Dimmy. Next day, played Michael, out of this world. And then he played Gary, and he couldn't hit a double. Whereas against Dimmy and Michael, he couldn't miss a double. It's just that's darts for you, and that's the way it is. It's nothing to do with anything else in that sense. So I think the easier it is, like with Owen, if Owen had gone through to round 2, I think obviously he'd been more confident, because now he's got to do it. And then once he's done it, and you're like, yes, I've done it, you've got to do it all over again. Now, we know, I know from experience, challenge tours when you got 2 on a day, development tours 2 on a day. If you win that first one, it's so hard to get back up and perform again in that second one, because the excitement and the euphoria of actually winning the tournament or qualifying for this or that, and then having to come back down and say, I've got to do it all again now. I haven't really actually, I've got to do it again. It's mentally, that's tough. And he's 17 years old. We have to understand that. So for someone like Owen, if he can do both sections, both phases, and come out with a tour card, then we'll know mentally he's ready for the PDC. If he doesn't, no big deal. We'll start again. We'll do what we do this year. We'll go on challenge tour. We'll go on development tour. Obviously, COVID permitting, fingers crossed. But we'll do whatever we can to support him. Play local tournaments. I mean, is this a couple of 9 darters in stream tournaments and everything at the moment? You know, so the darts are there. There's a lot of people interested in Owen, as in sponsorship opportunities. So he's doing things right at the moment. He's 17. We're not going to rush him. If he gets it, he gets it. If he doesn't, we'll support him all the way. Kevin and Jim go into phase 2, and the same applies to them. We'll support them all the way. If they don't get a tour card, we'll have another year developing. We'll have another year on the challenge tour. If they do get a tour card, brilliant. They'll come in, they'll join the group, and they'll be part of us, and they'll see what we're all about. Each one. Kevin has he also made that winter series, and he's been part of it. He knows what we're all about, so he's seen it. He's been with us for 5 days. Jim has been with us for 5 days, so they know how we work, what we do, how military we are in certain things. Do you know we have we have to go for breakfast at 8 o'clock as a team. We meet at 9 o'clock, you know, and so on and so on and so on. We eat together, we drink together, and we play together, as in game of pool, game of cards, silly games like Chase the Ace. It's all morale boosting. Do you know, we have a laugh. And that's what we do. When we're a team, that's off the board, then we are a team. But as soon as 12 o'clock strikes or that tournament starts on TV or whatever, then we're individuals.
Well, brilliant. I mean, it's been great talking to you, Mac. A superb insight to what it's like, completely different insight to what the players can give. So thank you very much for your time, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon.
Josh, thanks for your time. And just before I go, please, to all your viewers, stay safe. This COVID's not going to be here forever. Hopefully the darts will be back on soon. And Josh, you do a great job. Keep up the good work. Thanks, mate.
Yeah.